Okay, we're live now, Chairman.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this virtual meeting of the Brierfield and Reedley Committee.
Mr. Chairman.
Evening. Can I ask everyone, obviously, to introduce themselves so we know who's who, and also can I ask any councillor to declare any particular interest they may have on tonight's agenda? This we are required to do by law. I'll start off with myself, Councillor Naeem Ashraf, Brierfield and Reedley Area Committee Chair. Councillor Hanif.
He's on mute.
Councillor Hanif.
Sorry, I was on mute. Mohammed Hanif, Reedley Ward Councillor.
Councillor Yasser Iqbal.
Yeah, Councillor Yasser Iqbal, Reedley Ward Councillor.
Councillor McCormack.
Pauline McCormick, representative of the Parish Council.
Thank you. Catherine.
Catherine Hughes, Principal Planning Officer.
Wayne.
Wayne Forrest, Brierfield and Reedley Area Committee Coordinator.
Thank you. Lynn.
Lynn Rowland, the Committee Administrator.
Thank you very much, everybody. The first item on tonight's agenda is public question time. Obviously, we don't have any public. However, do any colleagues have any questions which are not on tonight's agenda? They have or anything?
Nothing, Chair.
Nothing. I have one which I ask everyone to go on mute, please, because obviously we can hear all the background noise. Thank you. It's very, very disturbing, to be quite honest, and I've had numerous calls again today. I know Councillor Hanif's been working very hard down at the bottom end of Clitheroe Road, where all these new houses have been built by Barnfield, and they're all absolutely full with all new people who've moved into Brierfield. I got a call 3 times today, and one woman in particular who lives on Clitheroe Road in one of the new houses. Her car last night, yet again, her wing mirror was smashed to bits, and it's cost her £500 today. She's been quoted by Audi to replace it. Now, I know LCC have said there's nothing they can do or anything, but to be quite honest, the disturbing thing is we've got new people moving into our area in Brierfield. We've had millions invested down there, and obviously with the North Light, and one of the residents actually said to us, they're all young couples with young children. This woman in particular, just one little child, and she has CCTV, but the CCTV can't catch these cars. And she actually said, we've invested so much of our savings and mortgages and everything. She goes, it's one of the biggest mistakes I've done. That was her words. Now, I honestly feel like I don't think we've got the police on tonight, because obviously the police need to get involved. But I think LCC, with all due respect, need to pull their finger out and actually do something. It's easy just putting signs up saying, please reduce your speed or something. And then bumps, to be quite honest, are just a waste of time. We need proper speed bumps there. Now, can we ask the cabinet member to meet us on site or do something? I don't know what other colleagues feel, what we can do.
Good idea, Mr. Chairman.
Do colleagues want to say anything?
Yeah.
What you just suggested, Mr. Chairman, I think is a good idea.
Okay, right. Thank you, Pauline. Councillor Hanif.
Yeah, this is a massive, obvious issue down there. I think County won't meet us, but there's no harm in asking for the cabinet member to meet us there. It's honestly, it's absolutely a massive issue. In particular, not just speeding, but in the evening after dark. Normally in the past it was 9-10 o'clock onwards. They're just hanging around on the bridge as well. All the 5-6 cars at a time, and it's obviously causing a lot of issues for the residents. So I think that's a start, Chair. So if we can have a meeting, it'd be fantastic.
Mr. Chairman, can I just say something? I've been involved with this for a long time, and I think it's so sad that we've got a beautiful operation going on down there. People are joining it, wanting to come and live here, and it's just what we wanted. It was this is everything we ever wanted. How awful that it should be being spoilt by kids. Awful.
All the
Can we not get the police, the youth, the youth people who try to get kids into some other kind of things in the evening? I mean, it needs to be a concerted effort from everybody, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree. However, I think with no youth services left, obviously with the cuts and everything, there's no youth centre, there's nothing there. However, it's a shame the police aren't here tonight, because I was expecting them to be here, because I had questions on something else as well. And I think, to be quite honest, in my opinion, I think LCC think Brierfield doesn't exist. This is not the first time. We've asked for other stuff as well to be done. However, nothing seems to be done by LCC. It's always a no, a no, a no, and it's absolutely ridiculous. So can we, Lynn, through you, can we ask if we can meet the cabinet portfolio holder, and we'll stay 10 metres away from him if we have to. We'll shout message across. And also, can we ask if you can CC County Councillor Iqbal into this as well, please?
Yes, I can ask for that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the minutes.
I wasn't here, Chair.
Councillor Yasser Iqbal.
I'll second that, Chair. Or move it, I think, if you're not seconding it.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll second that. The progress report.
Noted, Chair.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, can I come back to one little item? I'm awfully sorry about this. Item 2, it was the future of the refills of the bins. I do realise it's costly and things like that, but we do live in such a steep and icy area. I think we perhaps need to look at this again. Could we look at it again and have a little meeting of people, councillors who have people in the wards who find it difficult to get up and down when it's icy and snowy?
Yeah, sorry, can I just ask, Councillor Yasser Iqbal, you were at the meeting, was this discussed, was a decision made or anything?
No, Chair, well, I got disconnected very shortly before the item was discussed. It was about 3 hours into it, so I'm not sure, but I did speak to on this issue, and I didn't get a positive response, if I can put it that way. So I'll be surprised if it was approved by the DC or Policy Legal Committee.
Councillor Neef?
Yeah. This issue was deferred again.
Was it deferred again?
Yeah, it was deferred again. They didn't make a decision.
Did they say why they've deferred it?
No reason. It was literally a 20-second chat. Can we defer this, please? And it was deferred.
That's disgusting.
When is the next policy and resource? Is it in January now?
I think there's one in December.
It should be in a couple of weeks.
Okay, so obviously it should be on there, that item on the agenda.
Perhaps, Mr. Chairman, we could all try and get in there and push something. Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, if it was flat, Mr. Chairman, I wouldn't care. But we live on really steep hills here, and I'm in the town council area, and it's really difficult if there's no gritters. I mean, main road, yes, that gets gritted, but we have to get to the main road, don't we?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you anyway. Thank you,
Pauline. Councillor Coleman. The next item is planning application. Planning application number 20/0524/PRP. Permission in principle, erection of up to 6 number dwelling houses at land to the north of Rockwood, Halifax Road. We have a speaker. Is Mr. Hodgson? Is Mr. Hodgson on? Mr. Hodgson?
No, I don't think Mr. Hodgson is here.
Oh dear.
Right, no problem. Can I bring Councillor McCormack in? Do you want to speak on this?
Well, I would like to just...
Sorry.
We do have Mr. Sumner to speak.
Oh, right. Please let Mr. Sumner in.
Yeah, Mr. Sumner, obviously, do you want to speak?
Yes, good evening, Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm the agent on the application of Avalon Town Planning, as you know. There's a couple of points I'd just like to reinforce to committee since they went to look at this site, since it was deferred from the last committee. And that reinforcement is, in essence, firstly, that there is no policy objection to this scheme. In fact, it's the opposite. The scheme, the housing scheme here actually complies with your adopted policy. That is LIV1, your adopted core strategy, which is permissive of sustainable sites which join the actual settlement boundary itself, and that is the case here. Second point is the site does have the green wash going over it for open space designation in your local plan. However, as your officers say, and I think as you've seen from the site visit, the site is not connected to the golf course, which is the purpose of that designation. It's an insignificant loss of amount of open space in this ward, of which there is a surplus of over 40 hectares in any event. So again, its loss will comply with your local plan, your old local plan policy 33, which is permissive of development in those circumstances. Third point is that if there is an accusation that this site sits out into the countryside, I hope you've seen from your site visit that just is not justified. It's on a main road. There are dwellings to each side of the site, and it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. And although it is an open countryside designation in your policy, that's not borne out by what you see on the ground. Fourth and final point, Mr. Chairman, is this. This is a permission in principle, and it's about planning policy, and particularly about housing policy and where housing should go. We are aware that Pendle has difficulties with its housing provision and has done a housing action plan. And in those circumstances, the government guidance says that local councils should be supportive of sustainable sites and locations such as this. Bearing all that in mind, Mr. Chairman, I hope the committee will approve the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Councillor McCormick?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I don't really agree there. We've got to have some nice land, some open spaces. That's what we need. And in Reedley, we've had a colossal amount of building and overdevelopment of sites, and it's just been awful. That piece of land is lovely up there. The views are lovely. It's a real good walking place for people. I just feel it's such a shame. Such a shame. Perhaps there is nothing that we can stop it with, except that we've got to have some nice places to look at as well as living. And I'm afraid that once it's gone to building, it's gone forever.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do you want to move anything, Councillor McCormick? Obviously, you can move, but you can't vote.
Well, I didn't know I could, Mr. Chairman. Well, I would like to move that we refuse.
Catherine?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah, obviously, Councillor McCormick's moved, obviously she can't vote on it. But I've been up to have a look as well. And to be quite honest, I'm normally for a lot of planning, and I've supported a lot of planning applications. However, on this one, and having looked at it, I have to agree with her on a lot of the things she's mentioned. But if we were to, just for arguments, obviously, Councillor Iqbal and Councillor Hanif still have to obviously give their views, and I don't know what they're thinking. But if we're to refuse this planning on the basis of obviously some of the stuff that's been written, like it unsafe or the scene, refusing it on that, obviously footpaths, can we refuse it on that?
Well, through you, Chair, nobody's actually given a reason for refusal, even though Mrs. McCormick moved.
Well,
that.
I didn't realise, Catherine, I could actually do that. So
no, I would need to know a reason for that. The problem we have with a permission in principle is that's exactly what it is. It's even less information than an outline one that we normally get. It's a new type of application that the government's brought in to speed up housing on sites. We can't look at some of the issues, the technical side of it, if you will. That will come later on. But in terms of the open space provision that was mentioned, we have an oversupply, as the report says. It backs onto the golf course. This is private land, it's not public, so it shouldn't be used for people walking across it, apart from the footpaths that are designated on there. Those will remain unless there's applications to divert them, which we would look at in due course. But in terms of the principle of it, we've recommended approval because of that reason. It is just a permission in principle. Any other details we would have to look at the technical stage, which would come later. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Hanif or Councillor Yasser Iqbal?
Yeah, Chair. Thank you. I think this obviously came to the really Brierfield and Reedley Committee last meeting, and we deferred it because we wanted to see the outline and where this development sat. I've been as well. In fact, as you know, Chair, I jog up there.
Yeah.
I have been during lockdown, so I've got to see the area a bit more.
Lovely, isn't
Now,
it?
the issue I have with this particular planning, Chair, I know it's a new type of application, but it's a planning in principle, which basically means it seems that it's very little detail. In fact, it's no detail at all. It's just, if we allow this in principle, at least with an outline, we can scrutinise it and look at it a bit further. Now, the rules are what they are, I suppose. But I suspect, and there's nothing stopping the applicant, or was stopping the applicant in making a more detailed an application. And I agree with what Councillor McCormick says. And me and Councillor McCormick have worked on some of these planning issues in Reedley, and in particular that part of Reedley where most of the planning application seems to come. Now, I think she moved something which I'm happy to second, but I also hear what Catherine says about the reasons. And that's something that I think we just need to have a think about before we proceed any further. But I mean, my issue here is that if perhaps this question for Catherine, if we refuse planning in principle, is it open for the applicant to come back with the kind of more usual applications they come with in an outline application, or is that the end of the road for them?
More detail, yeah.
Through you, Chair, we have to deal with this as it is in front of us, as it stands. So it's we either approve it as it stands, and then a technical application comes in with the full plans, contamination, drainage issues, ecology and everything else, and we can deal with those issues then. Or members would need to come up with a reason to refuse it.
Councillor Hanif? Councillor Hanif?
I'm not used to this mute and unmute. Like all colleagues, on a principal level, for the last 5 years, I think anything being built on that side of Brierfield, I've always been against it. Because I think there's far more other spaces where we can build houses, and we need the countryside. And we had a big battle, obviously, on Hillsborough Avenue, and things like this. So, on a principal level, Chair, I'm not for it.
Thank you. So the only thing now is that we have obviously Councillor McCormack who's moved, obviously Councillor Yasser Iqbal has seconded, so we'll go to a vote. But I think what Catherine is saying is that what's your reason for refusal? That's the question.
Can Catherine help?
No, through you, Chair, you would need to suggest something. As it stands, it would be a referral to Policy and Resources Committee.
Well, yeah, that's fair. So if we refuse, it goes through Policy and Resource Committee.
Based on that, I don't have apart from the open space provision, I don't have a reason for refusal.
I think it's not just up.
Well, it's open space provision.
Yeah.
It's loss of amenity, perhaps, Chair, as well.
Yeah,
or,
yeah, loss of amenity as well.
That's one of the things I think we've consistently refused on that part of Brierfield, haven't we?
Yeah.
And go to policy and fight a case. As much as we can.
That's fine. So we have obviously Councillor McCormack's moved it, but obviously she can't vote on it. So Councillor Yasser Iqbal, are you?
Yeah, I'll move it, Chair.
Yeah. Councillor Leaf, are you happy to second that?
Yeah,
that's fine. So all those in favour of refusal, I'll ask you one by one, which I haven't. Yes, Councillor Iqbal is. Councillor Neef?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm for refusal. Well, so we have 3 for refusal of planning on the items. What we said. Sorry, not the items. You know, the reasons. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. This will be sent to Policy and Resource Committee in a couple of weeks' time. I don't have the exact date in front of me.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll find that out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. There's no planning appeals. Enforcement. We have a speaker on one of the enforcement issues, which is the land at 21 Sefton Street, Brierfield. It's Miss Shazia Shaheen. Shazia?
Yes, love, speaking.
Yeah. Do you want to say what you've got to say on this?
I do know. To be honest, if I knew I was going to go with this stress, I wouldn't have started it in the first place. Husband's not working as much, he's not earning, and he's on 4 tablets a day with high blood pressure. 2 daughters of mine have got asthma. They're vulnerable. Even when they go to school, I'm concerned they might come with some COVID case. I'm on antidepressant tablets, so I don't know where we are, to be honest, really.
Are you sort of thinking of dropping it for the moment then until things get a bit better?
No, love, I'm all right. It's been going on for a couple of years. I just need to get it over and done with, sorted out, because it's a lot of stress on my
Oh, sorry, I was misunderstanding you.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare, to be honest. I shouldn't have gone that way. But, you know, the builders messed me about, and now it's the council saying, fair enough, I know where they're coming from, but I don't have the funding to, you know, get the kitchen over and done with, because I've got 5 kids in the house. 2 are vulnerable with asthma. And where am I supposed to go if they knock the kitchen down?
Yeah. Thank you for that, Shazia. Councillor Yasser Iqbal?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, obviously this has been to this committee before, and it's been going on, I think, a number of years ago. I think it's been a couple of years now. But when it came first, we didn't have much of a choice, and it went to the Policy and Resource Committee, and they decided what they decided, and I think it's been through the appeals process. And I was contacted by the resident here, Mrs. Shazad and Mr. Shazad, having exhausted all the options, and I think she's articulated a position, but I can perhaps add to some of that. They've had some issues, and I think everyone else has, financially and psychologically, because of the coronavirus. And as you've heard, they are having some issues financially in terms of the lack of work and having the kids, and 2 being particularly vulnerable. They have built the extension. It is what it is, and I suppose there's not much we can say. And you obviously heard that she accepts that there was some fault on their side to build that extension. But, Chair, I think, as I say, in the background, we in this committee and Policy and Resource approved the council's recommendation to take the action that it did. But I think now, Chair, we have to look at this from a human level as well. This family has been suffering some significant stress because of all of this, and I've been speaking to Mr. Shazad. He's been contacting me literally every week, and been speaking for hours and hours, and he's genuinely stressed about this case. I've spoken to some of the neighbours as well, and I understand that the issue actually was reported by one of the neighbours, and that neighbour now is I don't think it makes a difference from a council's perspective. That neighbour now no longer objects to that extension, but I think, and it's right, that from a legal perspective, there's not much the neighbour can't have much of a say now because the enforcement action has been taken. But having said all of that, Chair, I think the date of compliance was, I think it's beginning of next year. And I think, having heard the resident at that house, and considering the circumstances, I think, Chair, as a committee, we should consider at least suspending the enforcement action. Now, I accept they may have to go to the Policy and Resource Committee for them to consider, because that's what happened the last time. But as this committee, I think we should exercise some compassion and understanding for these people, and allow them that suspension of enforcement action. And as I say, it may have to go to Policy, which is what I said, and I can obviously articulate why this committee came to this decision if that's what we come to. So, Chair, that is what I am suggesting. I'm not sure
Mr.
what
Chairman, may I just come in?
Sorry, Councillor
The only
McCormack.
worry there would be... Sorry.
Please, Councillor, can I ask Councillor Iqbal to finish before you come
in?
in?
Sorry, I thought he'd finished. I'm sorry, I thought he'd finished.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, Chair, in summary, what I'm asking this committee and other councillors to consider is what you've heard from Mr. Shazad. Consider the circumstances, consider the national position that we're in. This man is a taxi driver, and I know for the last 4 weeks, most taxi drivers' work is completely depleted, even before then. And consider the position of his family, in particular the 5 kids and 2 being vulnerable, and consider taking some suspension action against this enforcement proceedings. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Iqbal. Councillor, can I just say, obviously, having heard the applicant, obviously, and Councillor Iqbal, obviously, we've never done something like this before, but obviously, circumstances can change, and we never had COVID before, and what's been going on in the last 7-8 months. But I'm happy to support Councillor Yasser Iqbal in that. Happy to second that. However, I'll bring Councillor Hanif in first, and obviously Councillor McCormack, and then speak to officers if that is possible. Councillor Hanif?
Yeah, I totally support Councillor Iqbal's proposition, Chair. I'm sure we can suspend this until further notice, or can we remove it? Because I remember going back 2 years ago, and this case happened in Nelson, where they actually were in a very similar position, and they actually stopped the enforcement action taking place. The wording had to be selected carefully, but I can't. I've tried looking for it, but obviously I couldn't find it. So I suppose what obviously Councillor Iqbal is saying, suspend the enforcement.
Councillor, thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCormack?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know it's terrible circumstances. It's just shocking, and I do agree. And the house, I don't know whether it's going to be big enough where if all those extensions are built anyway. But anyway, that's not the issue, is it? Mr. Chairman, it just worries me that that we do this, and then the next time this crops up, other people might try this again. I mean, are we setting a precedent here that, you know, if you've got extenuating circumstances, which a lot of us have at the moment, you can get round the council. And I wouldn't like people to go away with, if you're going to do this, please make this a one-off exception and tie it up in some way that it can't be done again, because I do believe that people will take it and try to run with it. Not the people who are there now, because I do believe their circumstances are shocking and terrible, and I do really sympathise with them. But it's other people taking it. Oh well, they got away with it, and they might try the same thing. I'm not being awful, Mr. Chairman. I'm just yeah.
Councillor McCormack, I totally agree with you 101%. Can I bring Wayne in or for some advice?
Chair, please can I come in on this one?
Sorry, Catherine. I thought it was.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I do have some advice from you, for you, and I am sympathetic to the applicant. I'm just dealing with this purely from a planning process point of view, and in terms of advising you on the council protocol. We have had 2 applications refused on the site and the appeal dismissed, as Councillor Iqbal said, but it is the decision of the council to refuse. And by suspending enforcement action, it's tantamount to approving that decision. So on that basis, any complaint could lead to compensation against the council. The reason it was refused was because of the impact, and I totally understand what you're saying about the neighbours. However, that wouldn't stop somebody from putting a complaint into the Ombudsman about the process. In lawful terms, not to take action would be a perverse planning decision. It would be maladministration, and therefore would need to be referred to Policy and Resources Committee.
Thank you, Catherine. Councillor Iqbal.
Thank you, Chair. So just so I'm clear, Chair, in relation to this application, if there's perhaps a question for Catherine, if this committee was minded to effectively suspend the enforcement action, I think what you said is it has to go to the Policy and Resource Committee, but there's nothing, and obviously it's their decision to finally ratify, just like any other application. And there's nothing stopping us from pursuing the suspension now, and obviously it's for the Policy and Resource Committee to consider the circumstances and perhaps listen to the applicant and what the advice that you've provided as well.
No, that's sorry. Just to clarify, you can't make that decision. It would have to be made by Policy and Resources, because the decision to refuse is a decision from the council and not the area committee. And if you move to suspend it, then it will be tantamount to approving the application. And it's not an application that is, it's in for information really. So that's why it would need to go back to Policy and Resources.
So we're not actually moving anything. It simply gets referred as an item to the Policy and Resource Committee, but you're not actually moving anything.
Oh.
Is that what you're saying, Catherine?
I'd have to refer to Lynn for advice on that one.
Lynn?
Yeah, I presume you would be making a recommendation that the Policy and Resources Committee suspend the enforcement action. You could make a recommendation.
Yeah, to have a look at him, to refuse, to suspend it. Sorry.
So can I do that then, Chair? Can we, as a committee, make that recommendation to the Policy and Resource Committee? Obviously, it's not a motion, which I think is probably out of order anyway. So if we ask the Policy and Resource Committee to consider this, consider suspending the enforcement action at the next Policy and Resource Committee meeting.
Yeah, I'm happy. Councillor, are you happy to second that?
Yeah, of course.
I'm happy to support that. Is that okay, Catherine and Lynn? Does that sound a bit better?
Yes, that's fine with me.
Yeah, thank you. Have you got that, Lynn? Yeah?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry, before we move on from this, just a question perhaps for Catherine. I'm not sure if you've got the information to hand, Catherine. When enforcement action was approved or endorsed, was it their Policy Resource Committee that had the final say on this?
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yes, I remember. And then obviously it went to the inspector, didn't it?
Yeah, it's got a long history, hasn't it, in this case?
Yeah.
It tells me, Chair, that the first one was refused, and then the second application, when it came in, went to appeal, and that the inspector dismissed that appeal, and then we proceeded with the enforcement action. So it has been going on for a while now.
Thank you for that. Shazia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, love you.
Yeah. What will happen now, Shazia, after the meeting, I'll get Councillor Yasser Iqbal just to ring you and explain what will happen next. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for attending the meeting.
Thank you. Please.
The next item is capital programme. It's there for information. I'll be happy to move it.
Shaheen
is now exiting.
Noted, Chair.
Thank you. The next item is the reopening of Brierfield Town Centre. There is some information, about what was discussed at the last meeting regarding this hand sanitisers and everything. I don't know if have you got that in front of you. We just need to actually finalise where these are going to go. Councillor Yasser Iqbal, Councillor Hanif.
Yeah, to be honest, Chair, I'm a bit surprised because when we had the chat with the officer, we agreed to come back to us with some locations and prices and the type of sanitizer stands.
Councillor Hanif, sorry, Councillor Hanif, it was last. I know you missed last month's.
Okay.
It was decided because that we'd have the hand sanitizers, the lock-up ones, the ones you said. But and there was something else, but we said that was too expensive for that. So we agreed with that. It's just we have to agree now where these will go.
Are they fixed, Chair?
No, the ones, what you said, where the shop owners bring them out.
Oh, yeah.
Evenings, the lock-up ones, they can take them back in.
Can I propose?
How many are there, Mr. Chairman?
3.
3, right, okay.
Councillor Neath?
Yeah, can I propose that we give this authority to yourselves as chair, obviously to be approved later on. So we can just have a quick chat afterwards. But at least the item will be resolved for this meeting.
Are you happy to second that, Councillor Iqbal?
Yeah, Chair.
Yeah, so that's fine. So did you get that, Lynn?
Yes, I did.
Thank you very much. Item 10, Brierfield Town Centre premises improvement grants with no applications. That is the end of the meeting. This will be our last meeting before Christmas. So can I wish everyone a happy Christmas and stay safe. I know the vaccine's out next week, so some more good news.
But not for all of us. Not yet.
Not yet. Thank you very much.
Okay,
And
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and a very happy Christmas to you and all.
thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.